Virtual life is different life. So hello everyone. Greetings from Milano, the capital of the world as regards climate action these days, because we have the Italian co-presidency of the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, organizing a pre-COP youth event here and informal negotiations, the so-called pre-COP meetings. And that's why we are here, because we've had already the last 2 days a youth climate action celebration in the context of the Digital Art for Climate initiative and the ACE-AT project. And today's side event is also focused on action for climate empowerment. It's Africa and the Future of Action for Climate Empowerment is the title of the side event. It's being organized in cooperation with the Austrian Federal Ministry for Climate Action, represented today by Talia Wögerbauer, who is the ACE focal point for Austria and also the ACE ambassador for the United Nations Climate Change Secretariat, and also the initiator and coordinator of the ACE-AT project. And another partner is the Ghana Environmental Protection Agency and the ACE focal point for Ghana, Emmanuel Obeng, who is still trying to connect here. But we will start this presentation because we regard action for climate empowerment as very important for the world, but especially also for Africa. And with this, I give the floor to Tali. Thanks for your leadership on action for climate empowerment. And I will go through the slides that we've had prepared for this project, so that people will have an insight about an ACE innovation framework that is now already in place and which could open up opportunities also for Africa. And with this, please, Tali, take the floor.
Thank you, Miro, and thank you for your kind introductory words on our project, Action for Climate Empowerment AT. But before you are going to present our project to our African friends, let me first of all greet all of them who are interested in our side event, and secondly, thank you also for the opportunity to address the importance of action for climate empowerment in tackling climate change, probably in Africa. Let me quote the Executive Secretary of the UN Climate Change, Patricia Espinosa. She has said the 6 elements of ACE: education, training, public awareness, public access to information, public participation, and international cooperation on these are essential for countries and communities to counter climate change and adapt to its impacts. Very wise words, I fully agree. And well, what do we associate with Africa and climate change? Well, Africa's 54 countries have contributed almost nothing to climate change. Today, they account for about, I think, 2 or 3% of global carbon emissions and 1% of cumulative emissions. Practically, there is no great urgency to cut Africa's carbon output. However, Africans will be among the world's most affected people because most African nations lack the financial resources to deal with the impacts of climate change. And moreover, poor countries have much less economic resilience to deal with storms, droughts, wildfires, pests, and so on. So the question is, what else are we aware about Africa and climate? Well, longer-term evidence points to dramatically shifting weather conditions. What we can see all day in news and mass medias who are reporting about changing rainfall patterns that are particularly grave in sub-Saharan Africa, or where 95% of farmers have no irrigation. Or we are going to be informed about West Africa. The southward march of the Sahara is pushing nomads and herders into conflict with farmers in countries from Mali and Burkina Faso to Nigeria. Or we hear also about East Africa, where deforestation has radically altered the landscape, and countries including Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, they are prone to more droughts and inundations. So the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change identifies potential risks, including reduced crop productivity, adverse effects on livestock, an increase in vector and waterborne diseases, and migration. So African governments will have to build resilience. Raising farming productivity will be existential, especially as the continent urbanizes and the population expands. Therefore, bringing down high birth rates is vital. Climate change will also exacerbate inequalities in health and education, access to adequate food, clean water, sanitary, sustainable energy, and scarce resources. Well, generally spoken, the ability of the continent of Africa to adapt to the adverse effects of climate change is significantly lower than the rest of the world. Thus, if preventive actions are not taken to mitigate these effects, they could contribute to the reduction of arable land, worsen chronic hunger, and even lead to social unrest. These direct and indirect impacts of climate change could in turn trigger migration, especially among African states. From my personal perspective, one of the key questions is whether the African and the global community are sufficiently informed and subsequently prepared regarding the huge challenges that the African continent has to face within short and mid-term time frame. Enhancing policy dialogues on climate change challenges in Africa, in particular in view of providing climate information services to African countries, and committing to elaborate and implement adaptation and migration mitigation strategies is the order of the day. So I think that the elements of ACE could be a good tool of addressing climate change challenges as a hub for the exchange of experiences, information, and collaboration between a number of partners that will participate in the efforts of addressing the climate issues, such as local authorities, all parts of civil societies, and the private sector, among others. Especially youth should be strengthened in their efforts to tackle climate change. And we should also strengthen the partnership around a joint climate change agenda within and beyond the continent. So Milan is a very good example how, for instance, now international youth come together and they try to find solutions how and what they can contribute regarding tackling climate change. Therefore, the Austrian ACT project has also a focus on Africa and African youth in order to exchange views, to inform, to raise awareness, and increase the understanding of and support to mastering the challenges that climate change could pose to the issues such as development and migration in Africa. By the way, migration, it's one of my observation that the expected challenge of climate change on development and migration seems not to be an aspect that is often discussed among us, but also the African communities itself. The chief reasons are a lack of information, a sufficient awareness, and a lack of knowledge of the complexity of the climate change and its grave repercussions on development and migration. Additionally, the debate on climate change is largely vagued by academia and higher policy circles that hardly seek the contribution of civil society actors in the discussion. So far, the involvement of non-state actors in the dialogue, policy advice, and practical operation geared towards adaptation and mitigation efforts on the consequences of climate change in Africa has been limited. It is still a top-down approach, pushed largely by national and multilateral actors and institutions. However, a top-down policy approach not bolstered or anchored by a bottom-up foundation will not really effectively succeed. This makes it imperative to mobilize strategic stakeholders at different social levels and policy levels. The elements of ACE help to build up cross-cutting networks across the continent and beyond, aiming to strengthen the African efforts to overcome the challenge of the impacts of climate change. They can also facilitate the setting up of, for example, monitoring teams composed of representatives from civil society associations and activists in Africa, and youth organizations that collectively oversee the unfolding dynamics of climate change on the continent and regularly bring these issues to the attention of decision makers at local, national, regional, continental, or global level. The elements of ACE can foster the establishment of such informal fora in which non-state institutions in Africa and beyond could establish viable contacts and networks and share information, expertise, best practices, and positive experiences regarding all issues on climate change. I think it's through adequate education, training, information, public participation, international cooperation, lobby and advocacy activities to mobilize, of course, financial resources, extensive transnational networks, powerful international forces, and political connections that span the globe and through which they can make a difference to improve the situation in Africa in many respects within the whole climate agenda. And therefore, we have put focus on our African friends, let's say, on Africa and African youth. And we really would like to collaborate with our African friends and be in close contact with them and exchange experiences and views. And we hope that, for example, we have some project in Ghana, and we hope that we will work more closely together in the future. But Miro, please introduce a little bit more about our Action for Climate Empowerment ACT project and our focus on Africa, so that our African friends can have a picture of our project and our initiative. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dali. Thanks for your leadership in this field, and I'm delighted now to report that we have also a representative from our African cooperation partners, Dr. Dairou Siddiqui, with us from Chad. But let me, as asked for, introduce first now this ACE-AT project, which is an innovation leadership in rethinking and redesigning action for climate empowerment. As Tali has said, this is a project for strengthening all of society empowerment, and which aims also to build capacity and to help coordination on the 6 elements of ACE about education, public awareness, public participation, access to information, and international cooperation. That there will be really a progress in the field, which will help also African countries. And it is within the UNFCCC process, it is very often it's considered a niche, but actually, if we put the ACE glasses in front of our eyes, we see that all the activities that are happening in society, it's all ACE. Everyone needs to take action. Everyone needs, or institutions need to lower their carbon footprint and prepare for these dangerous effects of climate change. And here, really, ACE is a global governance innovation space in which more non-party stakeholders' engagement can be enshrined into this normative framework of global climate governance, and therefore this leadership of Tali for setting up this project and connecting with the UN Climate Change Secretariat, with ECOS, the Education, Communication and Outreach stakeholders, and my organization IAI, and ICLE, the network of cities and local governments for sustainability. This is really visionary, and it's so important and timely. So within the ACE-AT project, we have 4 activities areas. One is general consultations and conferences and idea generations on rethinking and reorganizing ACE for all of society, climate action empowerment. And there, the UN Climate Change Secretariat is providing organizational and technical support. The Austrian Ministry for Climate is leading, together with the other non-party stakeholder partners, which are associated partners. And we have the core activities, support to the Climate Change Secretariat in Bonn for mapping, in collaboration with ECOS and other partners, working on coherence and interlinkages between UNFCCC processes and beyond, and especially youth and gender, and work on connecting with non-party stakeholders, helping ACE national focal points and national gender and climate change focal points. Then the third activity area is the area where I'm leading together with my colleagues from the Education, Communication and Outreach stakeholder community. And here we have the task to prepare a feasibility study and a business plan for a global ACE non-party stakeholder support structure or office, potentially in Austria, and exploring also the option of setting it up as a quasi-international organization, and then developing innovations and solutions for resource mobilization, innovation for ACE, series of events. And as a spin-off of this activity, we've had also our Digital Art for Climate initiative, which was now these days in Milan, where we engage artists to inspire the world, but also where this artwork is being turned into digital assets which can be collected and traded, and with this resource, channeling these resources then to action for climate empowerment. This is a concrete spin-off of this ACE-AT project, and will also, it aims to then mobilize resources which will help finance global ACE activities. And it's also our task to develop a digital global ACE platform concept. And again, here we see in the field of blockchain technology and digital collectibles a huge potential, because here yesterday we have presented for the first time event NFT, climate action, digital collectible, the digital art for climate Milan 2021, global angel NFT, and everyone can collect it and create an individual climate action dashboard and legacy with these digital collectibles. And this framework, I think, will be then also very valuable for developing an ACE marketplace, because really in this field of ACE, there's a severe lack of resources. And if we can create certified outcomes, certified impact and contributions, then people will be more ready to channel financial resources also to the ACE efforts. And these are topics that we are working on. And ICLE, our partner, is enhancing engagement of local and regional governments in the ACE activities. And ICLE is also planning to have a pavilion at the COP26 together with the regional government of Scotland. And we are envisaging to have there also several ACE AT activities. And now specifically also to the topic of ACE and Africa, it has been identified by very many governmental and non-governmental stakeholders that there is a key priority to mobilize additional resources for ACE. It's such an important topic, really getting everyone engaged, but in the end, it's usually only one person in a ministry without specific resources. And also in the UN Climate Change Secretariat, it's really a micro team there, and only with a few $100,000s of euros of budget. And so there's a need for systemic solutions to increase the support for ACE. And the question is now what kind of support is needed, who will deliver it, and how. And we have here now also our concrete solutions, which I would, which I'm now somehow taking the line or drawing the line to say this first part is what is agreed upon all ACT partners. But the results are not necessarily endorsed by everyone already. These are ideas that we are putting forward, and then we will see how what will succeed, what will be recognized and accepted by the relevant stakeholders and resource holders. So we have developed concrete ACE support initiatives. We think that there's really an ecosystem of ACE support needed, which includes digital identity management. We need to know globally who is doing what and really uniquely identify these stakeholders. And also, if we want public participation in decision-making about ACE, let's say at the beginning, then we need to have trusted identities. And for this, we need a global mechanism, a global digital ecosystem that will provide this. And blockchain technology is quite high potential in this area. Again, we need social networks, because very often people are very isolated, thinking about the need for climate action, but don't knowing where to start, because they have no partners, no social network. And here it's also social networks that go beyond Facebook and these kind of things, where people are exploiting individuals' data that's needed. And this needs to be developed as a global digital public good. And we need investments in this. If it is driven by the logics of a company, profit maximization, we will not get optimal results. So we need really public good solutions that are designed and programmed to deliver public good. Knowledge management is very essential. We need a global knowledge infrastructure, intellectual resources management. If somebody contributes a good idea or a good solution, it needs to be rewarded and socially recognized. Access to internet is a key issue today. Also, our friends from Africa, we've had on our list of speakers 4 speakers who confirmed, but one has made it, thanks Dr. Dairu Siddiqui. Very often is access to internet, access to technology. So, and again, capacity building in general is support that is needed, and resource mobilization is really essential. And so we have here now certain mechanisms existing that are working on support for ACE globally, but it's very far from all of society action for climate empowerment. And the most non-party stakeholders are lacking an entry point in global climate action coordination and incentivization. And so we are here to fill this gap with data and digital innovation focus, social networking on this with our partners from TrueNet, conceptual frameworks and digital tools for youth climate action reporting and incentivization. We are speaking with also with partners from the Climate Olympics in an Austria-based initiative, Austria and UK and US-based initiative, which incentivizes and engages school kids on these topics. So that we will have a workshop in Glasgow, and also with Equanet, it's a digital innovation partner of the Conference of Youth. We will have also this workshop so that we have a standard that we generate data about youth climate action. And once we have this trusted data about action and impact, we can have the incentive mechanisms going. And with ICRE, we have a workshop on the 7th of September in the context of the Daring Cities Conference about digital solutions for addressing the climate emergency, focus on resource mobilization, digital bonds, and also crypto stamps for voluntary carbon footprint compensations on city levels. There's also one idea, city coins. It's successfully implemented in Miami and other places. So, and this support structure needs to be set up as a social enterprise. It needs to be an income-generating, self-sustaining mechanism and delivering action for climate empowerment as a service. And so there are huge potentials we see. And but there's an initial investment needed, and it is a public good generation. So people should invest, and we are working now on mechanisms that will really allow these investments through climate action, but also through this voluntary carbon footprint compensation payments, and with co-ownership of this structure. Gamification is very important, as I said, framing the whole climate action empowerment and individual climate action neutrality goals as a digital badges collection game, which that people will then play it, and we need climate philanthropy innovation. And so we have IAI as here one of the leaders for these topics, co-founder of ECOS, co-founders of the Climate Change Coalition, co-founders of the Digital Innovation Community within the UNFCCC process. And we have already worked on this kind of solutions since the very beginning of our organization, which is back to March 2007. With Glotcha, we are setting up a multi-stakeholder partnership, a global climate action empowerment consortium, building on culture, technology, and organizational innovation. And as I said, the vision is that there will be on everyone's mobile device their individual climate action dashboard app, and people will play and enjoy taking climate action because they will collect these certificates, these NFTs. We have there developed concrete solutions which have been presented also in the context of the Digital Art for Climate events last few days. And here is an example of one such digital collectibles which we have presented yesterday. It's the Digital Art for Climate Milan 2021 Global Angel NFT. People can claim it by going to the homepage digitalartforclimate.space and then click on Milan event. And down there's a link to a form to claim it. And this is the really milestone that people can now start owning such a digital collectible. Everyone is hearing about this huge amounts of money being paid, like for Charlie Hit My Finger was sold NFT for 700,000 euros. Our friends from Carbon Drop have received 6.6 million for the auction of 7 digital art pieces. And today, at the event we've had here, Refik Anadol, one of the leading digital artists, was speaking, and he was also engaged in this Carbon Drop initiative. So this is high potential, and with this we will also mobilize resources for Africa. And here, from our IAI Glotcha background, we have our connections to the African continent, and as Tali said, it's top priority to work on this and to invest time and effort into climate action empowerment in Africa. Here a photo from the participants of our West Africa regional workshop on youth, information and communication technologies and global challenges, which we held in Accra in May 2014. It was a very inspiring group of people, and we worked there on solutions for satellite-based internet access and setting up Glotcha centers, really youth climate action empowerment hubs in every city with the support of global community, but also with this self-sustaining concept of climate entrepreneurship. We have our partners from Chad, Dr. Dairou Siddiqui, who will tell us more about his work. And he works also with the Al-Najad charity from Kuwait, and there are huge potentials also. Dr. Dairou is in Egypt these days, and Egypt is going to be the presidency of the next climate change conference, so really seeing great potentials there. We have partners in South Africa, here on this image from the Climate Week New York, from an image from the year 2019. You see our partners from KwaZulu-Natal and from eThekwini municipality, Durban. Wiseman Mkhize is our ambassador, our representative there. And there are really great potentials for inspiring and connecting with youth and other people from Africa to have more action for climate and to have a better connection between the small and micro and local action in Africa and global resources. There's a disconnect and with our concepts, with our social innovations and technological innovations, we are convinced we can improve the situation significantly and build there really an economic ecosystem for climate entrepreneurship in the range of billions of euros. And so our concrete proposal on Africa and the future of ACE is that there would be, we are used to have one host country for these COPs, for these climate conferences. But now for COP26, there's been introduced a co-presidency, the Italian co-presidency, and they have a focus on youth engagement, which is the new thing. So the pre-COP meeting is standard, but this youth pre-COP event here, that's unique. That's the special added value that Italy brings. And so we could say this is the first informal ACE co-presidency within the UNFCCC process. And so we are suggesting for the next COP, COP27, to have a more strategic approach on this, and from the very beginning, plan a co-presidency on ACE, which will have a focus on non-party stakeholders engagement, youth empowerment, and digital innovation. And that we say that there will be a resource mobilization for ACE from non-party stakeholders. We know the public sector has limited resources, and somehow they don't succeed really to channel it into climate action empowerment, especially if it's connected with international transfer, sending money to other countries. But the non-party stakeholders have a wider mind and broader aims, and therefore this should be functioning, especially also with the voluntary carbon footprint compensation, crypto stamps mechanisms. If this gets on scale, there are really huge financial resources, some kind of global climate action tax, which then can provide the resources for global public goods generation also in the African context. So these are our ideas, and I hope something of this will be implementable. And with this, I close this presentation, and coming back to see if Dr. Dairo Siddiqui is still with us and would like to share some thoughts and reflections and ideas.
Good evening. Yes, Miro, I'm still here. But,
wonderful.
The sound is so bad in my side, and I hardly can hear you. Thank you very much for hosting me here and giving me the opportunity to participate to such an event. I think it's very important to get African youth involved in this process of climate change activities. So for the time being, as we spoke this morning, I will try to have more knowledge about what is going on in my country, and maybe also what is being prepared here in Egypt. And hopefully I will learn more about these activities and how we can improve the involvement of our local communities. The most strategic part, the most important part for me is the implication of a local community. And I think also discussing climate change and giving opportunity to African youth to participate for the decision making and also action implementation is also a form of teaching them good governance, and that might also help us to resolve many of our local problems. Thank you.
Beautiful. And we've spoken with Dr. Dairo Siddiqui also about having him in our delegation to the conference COP26 in Glasgow in November.
It's really hard to. I hardly can hear you.
Tali, how is the sound on your side? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well, but Dairo says he cannot hear me, so I was wondering if you can hear me.
Not very well. The sound is very low, so maybe it's from my device here.
Okay.
What is the things that I couldn't manage yet? You well said it. In Africa, we have technology problems.
Yeah, exactly. And solving these problems is also a big economic opportunity. It's so much public and private added value that can be generated, and we only need to set up the right institutional frameworks and technological solutions, and then there will be and this can be financed. Really, climate safe future in Africa is manageable, is financeable. We have to be creative, and together we are strong. And what I wanted to say is that we are bringing Dr. Dairo Siddiqui to the COP26. We have a quota of 11, and also Delphine Maghero from the Global Youth Climate Action Fund, who is also a leading ECOS member. She is also on our delegation. We had agreed that she will speak today, or even make a pre-recorded message to avoid any connection problems, but I didn't get it. Yeah, so it's also something to work on. but in general, I would say there is hope because we are committed to build a climate-safe future. There are avenues, there are programs like ACE AT, and let's join forces, let's work on it. And I have here also two guests. Would you like to add something?
Sure.
Yeah, sure, please.
Hi. Whoops. The technology. I'm Sol, Moran Sol Rosa.
I'm Domenico Vito. Hi.
And we're both involved with ACE actions and really more than anything, raising awareness, I think is what we think is, well, I'll speak for myself, most important because a lot of people don't understand why climate change is even so important. And more than that, I think what they can do about it. But today with things like this conversation here, I think we're using technology to raise the awareness, and that's why education is the most important goal, I think, for humanity right now.
Yeah. Here in Italy, we have like a way of saying that is called freedom is only a matter of participation. And I think that with this sentence, I want to resume my intervention to say that ACE is one of the key pillars of Paris Agreement. And of course, now with technology, we can very foster this part of Paris Agreement. And so let's go to implement ACE more and more, because it's very important also to continue to get the real sustainability also for future generation. Thank you.
Well, because we're speaking with Africa, I'll also conclude with an African proverb that I've taken with me, and I think it's also very indigenous. It says, each one teach one. And that's how we pass on the awareness, the wisdom, the education. So I'm going to multiply that and listen to the science, and they say, each one teach 10. And I think if each of us can teach 10 people, that's not so much to ask for. And by the powers of 10, we will make the change we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sol and Domenico, for these inspiring words. Yeah, we are many, and there is hope. Yeah. And Tali, would you like also to say something, some concluding remarks?
Miro, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot. Indeed, the words of Domenico were quite inspiring. Yes, I agree. Education is very important, but at the same time, I think it's much more important to put the focus on all these organizations, non-governmental organizations and youth organizations who are engaging on tackling climate change. We have to make them visible, and we have to collaborate with them, because it's of utmost importance to provide them with the resources that they can engage. And furthermore, it's important to let them know that we appreciate their efforts and we take them seriously, and we want them to be a part of the solutions and decisions what we have to take in the near and midterm future in combating the climate change and its impacts. Thanks a lot, and thanks also to our Italian friends that we have had the opportunity to have this side event in Milan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So here perhaps also that the people know where we are based. We are here in this Meet Digital Culture Center, financed by Fondazione Cariplo, and it's really perfect to be here, in person. Yeah.
This is amazing. Yeah.
Real people, real hugs, and it's perfect. So onwards, we have to take action, and we will succeed. Bye, everyone. And Africa, we are ready to help or to partner. Let's say this paradigm of help is not a good one. So
Thank you.
Yeah, Tali, please show again. We make a screenshot, a screenshot where we have also Sol and Domenico. So let's make a screenshot. So, bravo! So here we are. Those screenshots.
Actually, yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
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 Well done.